Thank you for taking the time to view this AgilePoint discovery demonstration. This demonstration is about AgilePoint model-driven ASP.NET application development. Firstly, we are going to discuss about the challenges that organizations, especially developers and process owners, face with traditional software development lifecycle methodology. Then, we'll take a look at the technological advancement that AgilePoint model-driven BPMS framework offers, and finally, we'll glance through the benefits of the model-driven approach before going into a live demonstration that will provide a discovery of AgilePoint's key features and functionalities. The challenges of traditional ASP.NET development. Traditionally, business designs the process flow and hands it over to IT for execution, that is coding. In doing so, all the business logic stays in the IT domain as the code written by IT gets compiled into DLLs and executed. As seen often, change is an integral part of any process, but a nightmare for developers as they have to go through the entire software development lifecycle to make that one small change, also keeping the integration of the application intact. It could be a painful experience for all the parties concerned. Now let's take a brief look at AgilePoint's architecture. To the left of the PowerPoint slide is the traditional N-tier architecture, which is tightly coupled, wherein all the logic lies in executables. To the right is AgilePoint's methodology, which introduces XML-based, loosely coupled N-tier architecture for application development, thereby introducing an additional XML layer for data binding and enabling the AgilePoint engine to directly execute the process model without the need for compilation. AgilePoint's model-preserving architecture preserves the model from design time to execution and round trip for rapid continuous improvement, thereby introducing a whole new range of business agility values. There are a lot of benefits to this approach, a few of which have been pointed out in this PowerPoint slide. AgilePoint allows users to build or import XML schemas and easily bind them to the assemble logic of applications in the process modeling layer called AgilePoint Envision. Built-in Visual Studio template for ASP.NET Web applications reduces the amount of code to be written by developers when creating a new web application. AgilePoint builds the application structure and provides the prepackaged functionalities. AgilePoint also provides maximum visibility of the process at design time and runtime, improves collaboration and runtime monitoring. Now let's go into a live demonstration and see how model-driven approach enhances the game. The first component that we'll talk about is the modeling layer, where the process owners would design the process flow. The modeling layer is known as AgilePoint Envision, and it's an add-in to Microsoft Visio. The model that we are currently seeing is that of a simple budget request approval, wherein the requester fills in a form requesting the amount. Once the submitter fills the form and hits the submit button, the execution of the process begins. The AgilePoint engine, which runs behind the scenes, compares the value entered by the requester in the form and follows the path to the CFO if the amount is greater than $25,000 or to that of the manager, if otherwise. Also note that the CFO or the manager have the ability to either approve or reject the request. If rejected, the request goes back to the requester. While building the process owners would also identify the data that would be associated with the process. AgilePoint allows the users to build or import XML schemas which store the application data and easily bind the data to the respective shapes in the defined process. Since I'm using a pre-built process model for demonstration purposes, the XML schema has already been created and associated with the budget request process. But in case you're wondering as to how to add a new data element to the schema, this is how it is done. Click on Request Info, right-click, select the element. In my case, I would name my element as name. The next thing to do would be to assign a data type to the element that I just created. In my case, I would have my data type as string. It could be different based upon the requirement. And just click the OK button, and you're all set. Another very useful feature is that of data population. Data population removes the need for data access layers to be coded by developers, as process owners can now directly persist data from pre-built bound XML schemas to any custom database table of their choice. This is how data population is configured. Click on the data population link on the process modeling layer. Click Advanced, click Next. This is the configuration window for AgilePoint data population. Notice that there are three fields, namely the repository, meaning the backend database to which to connect to, the actual database connection string, and the table name where the application data would be persisted. Now let's go ahead and actually do the main configuration of data population. Notice that the repository that I'm using is a Microsoft SQL Server backend database. AgilePoint also provides Oracle and SharePoint lists as your backend stores. Now let's go ahead and configure the database connection string. When you click on the Configure button, the Configuration Database Connection window opens up. I'm going to go ahead and select the database location. Click on the ellipsis button, and my database is called AgilePoint Tracking. That is the one that I'm going to select. Remember, in your case, it would be your own database. Click OK, and now the new database connection string has been prepared. Once I click on the Retrieve button, all the application table names which reside under the AgilePoint Tracking database would be listed. I know that the application table that I'm going to use is called Budget Request ASP. That is the one that I'm going to select, and click the OK button. This is the Schema Mapper window of AgilePoint data population. To the left is the XML schema-bound application data elements, and to the right is the Budget Request ASP table where the application data would be persisted. All that you would have to do is drag and drop the related fields, and the data would get inserted upon execution. This is how you drag and drop. I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop some of the values, like requester, amount requested, requester email. Since these are the values that I would want to persist to my backend data store upon the execution of the budget request process model. Once I'm done with the mapping, I can just click the OK button and the data population has been set. Remember, with data population feature enabled, the need to write code to persist application data into a backend store has now been completely eliminated. One more important feature in the process modeling layer is that of data tracking. Data tracking provides an inbuilt tracking functionality wherein any changes made to the data during runtime are saved and displayed via AgilePoint Enterprise Manager. This is a very powerful feature that can be used for auditing purposes. Remember, you can either track all the application data at once or just select the nodes that you think are important and should be tracked. Once you click OK, the data tracking feature is now enabled. Once all these features and functionalities are configured, the process model can now be published directly to the AgilePoint server, where it is stored in the form of an XML file. This completes the first piece of the puzzle. Remember the steps. Open AgilePoint Envision, design and configure the process flow using out-of-the-box Agile shapes or custom shapes, enable data population and data tracking, and also create an XML schema to bind it to the process model to hold your application data. Once you're done with all these steps, do not forget to publish your process model to the AgilePoint server.